Morning, students. I'm Dr.B.Rajesh, Professor of Anatomy, Sri Lakshmi Narayana Institute of Medical Science, Pondicherry. Today we will be discussing about bone tissue. This is coming under competency number AN 71.1. That is to identify the bone under microscope, classify various types of bone, describe the structure and function of that bone tissue correlating with the functions. So, what is a bone tissue? Bone, bone tissue is a mineralized connective tissue. Like connective tissue, what we studied earlier, it has matrix and cells. That matrix is actually secreted by the cells. So here also the same, but here the matrix is hard and rigid due to its mineralization. So this bone tissue is constantly changing it is adapting for the external pressure or tension, or when there is a need, it is changing. And bone tissues, it is very hard and it has a regenerating capacity. It, as you know, the functions of the bone, it bears weight, it provides attachment for muscles and tendon. So through that muscle attachment, muscles can act in various joints and move the body parts. So that means bones are acting as levers and they are protecting the vital organs of our body like brain, spinal cord, heart and lungs. And it houses the bone marrow. Bone marrow is the hemopoietic organ of our body. So these are the various functions of bone. And you can see a bone, long structure of a long bone here, where we can see the knobbing ends are called the epiphysis, and the shaft is called diaphysis, because epiphysis is the part which is developing from the secondary centers, and diaphysis is developing from the primary center. And in the diaphysis of the shaft, there is a bone marrow cavity, and usually bone will be covered with periosteum outside and the endosteum inside, except the articular ends where it is covered with the hair and cartilage. And in this bone marrow cavity, you can see the shaft, which is usually filled with the yellow bone marrow in the adult. Bone marrow which will be present in the cancellous bones, which are present here in the ends of the bone. There you will get the red bone marrow. What is the composition of the bone tissue? Like any other connective tissue, it has cells and matrix. Matrix is secreted by the cells only. And here the matrix is having both organic and inorganic components. And these inorganic components are more in bone tissue, which is made up of hydroxyapatite crystals of calcium and phosphate. When it is coming to the organic components, like any other connective tissue, fibers are there, ground substance is there. And these fibers and ground substance are produced by the cells only. And here the fibers are type 1 collagen fibers. As usual, ground substance is made up of carbohydrates, glycosaminoglycans, and various proteins. Together, this organic part is called the osteoid. And the cells which are present in the bone tissue are four types: osteoprogenitor cell, osteoblast, and osteocyte. Osteoclast is there. Remember, all these three cells, osteoprogenitor cell, osteoblast, and osteocytes, they are developing from the same cell lineage. But osteoclast cells are not produced from the osteocyte cell lineage. Coming to osteoprogenitor cell, they are the osteoblast precursors. They are derived from the mesenchymal cells. You can see in this picture, they are looking like the fibroblast cells. They are very flat. There with a lot of protoplasmic projections from that, and there is a flat nucleus in them. Usually these cells will be present in the endosteum or periosteum of the bone, and they will be changing into osteoblast cells when there is a need. And their function is to differentiate to other cells only. So when it is coming to osteoblast cells, as I told, the osteoprogenitor cells only changing or differentiating into osteoblast. They are tubered with a basophilic cytoplasm. You can see in this picture, this basophilic cytoplasm, because of lot of rough endoplasmic reticulum. They have cytoplasmic processes, and they secrete collagen and other osteoid material around. And once they are secreting, starts secreting this osteoid around them, and that osteoid, when it is getting calcified, that becomes inactive, and that cells only called as the osteocytes. So osteoblast cells only changing into osteocytes. Why? Because osteoblast cells, they produce matrix around it, and that matrix, once it is getting mineralized, these cells becomes inactive, and it will be eosinophilic. These cells are called osteocytes. Osteocytes are eosinophilic mature cells. As we can see here, they have a lot of protoplasmic projections from them, and they are present in a space called lacuna, which is present in the calcified matrix. And these osteocytes are interconnected by their protoplasmic processes. They are inactive, but they are maintaining the matrix around it. And they will be under the influence of various stimuli from within and outside, like they are there are some bone releasing factors are there, like adenosine monophosphate, osteocalcinosis, insulin like growth factor. All these release factors facilitate the recruitment of pre-osteoblast to assist in the remodeling of the skeleton, bone growth and development, as well as when there is a long-term distribution of forces acting on the skeleton. All these really bone liberating factors, or these factors will influence the osteocytes for the bone formation. So, as I told you, osteoprogenitor cell, osteoblast differentiating from the mesenchymal stem cells, and these osteoprogenitor cells as well as uh, chondrocytes, they are deriving from the same cell lineage by the influence of various transcription factors. Either they change into chondrocytes or osteoprogenitor cells, and the osteoprogenitor cells will be later changing into osteoblast and osteocytes. So a lot of transcription factors are involved in this process. But as you can see here, osteoclast is not coming under this cell lineage. They are developing from bone marrow separately. Osteoclast cells, they are very large, motile and multinucleated cells with around 150 micrometer diameter, and they contain you can see here in this picture almost 4 or 5 nuclei you can see, but usually 5 to 50 nuclei will be present. That means they are formed by the fusion of many cells, and these cells are helping for the remodeling of the bone. So they are helping for resorption of the bone. They will be digesting the mineral part of the bone, later osteoid part, and that is the way they are helping for remodeling of the bone. They are present usually in a small space called resorption bay or horship of lacunae. And towards the bony side, there will be irregular margin for that cell, which is called the ruffled border. And this area will be having very high amount of enzymes and acids. Once these cells are completing their function, they may undergo apoptosis. Here you can see another slide, a real slide of showing osteocyte, sorry, osteoclast, and these osteoclast cells, where you can see the ruffled end of that, with a lot of nuclei present, which are euchromatic nuclei are there with the nucleolus. And usually, if you see the cytoplasm, it will be able to describe that there are 4 zones present in that area where it is related to the bone, which are called the basal zone, clear zone, vesicular zone, and ruffled border. So it is according to the presence of various digestive enzymes, and it is described as 4 zones. So they are present like this. In this slide, we can see there is a small space around that cell that is called the horship of lacunae. This is a scanning electron micrograph also showing the same. osteoblastoma with the osteoclast cells. So how the osteoclast cells are formed? They are not coming from the mesenchymal stem cells, they are coming from the bone marrow. There is a precursor present in the monocyte which is called as granulocyte macrophage progenitor cell. This precursor cells only is stimulated by the macrophage colony stimulating factor and by osteoprotein ligand to undergo mitosis and later they fuse to form these large cells like this. So that is how it is developing not from the mesenchymal cells, they are developing from the bone marrow by the influence of some factors. Other than the cells, the matrix is made up of ground substance and fibers. In the ground substance, there is organic as well as inorganic material. The organic matrix of the bone is made up of glycosaminoglycans, proteoglycans, like the hyaluronic acid, keratin sulfate, chondroitin sulfate, etc. And fibers are there. These uh, glycosaminoglycans and fibers are interlinked by a lot of multi-adhesive proteins are there, like osteocalcin, osteonectin, osteopondine, and xyloprotein 1 and 2. So together they are called as the osteoid. Once it is getting mineralized, it will be hard. So this unmineralized part is secreted by these cells only. Even the minerals also secreted by the cells. They are under the influence of various vitamins and hormones. So once there is a deficiency of such vitamins, then it will lead to osteomalacia in the adult or rickets in the children, which we will study later. So what are the inorganic compounds of the bone tissue? It is made up of crystals of calcium phosphate, calcium carbonate, calcium fluoride, citrate, magnesium, and sodium. And these calcium phosphate and all these ions that will be in the form of needle shaped, spindle shaped crystals, crystalloids, which is called hydroxyapatite crystals, and this will be surrounded by water. So this will be arranged in parallel to the lamellar pattern of the bone. In each lamella, I will come to that. It is placed parallel to the collagen fibers. So another part of the long bone is the periosteum. Periosteum as well as endosteum, they are the lining of the bone tissue. You can see here through the periosteum, blood vessels and nerve fibers as well as lymphatics will be reaching the bone, and from there it will be entering into the bone tissue. So it has, similar to the cartilage, here periosteum, you can see two layers are there. There will be a fibrous layer and a cellular layer. This cellular layer will contain the osteoprogenitor cells. You can see here in this slide, there are some structures are attached or can be a muscle or something, but from their attachment area, we can see some fibers are entering into the bone tissue. These are called the Sharp's fibers. So, periosteum, as I said, it has two layers, outer fibrous layer and the inner osteoprogenitor layer or the cellular layer. And they will provide the anchorage of various muscles or ligaments and other tissues. So, how they are functioning, periosteum, they are providing anchorage. Blood vessels are now fibers, lymphatics are entering, so they are providing nutrition. And since osteoprogenitor cells are there, they are osteogenic, and it also acts as a limiting membrane. Similarly, endosteum, not like a periosteum, endosteum will be having a very thin layer, only monocellular layer. Monocellular means one cell thickness only, and either it will be osteoprogenitor cell or osteoblast cells will be there in that endosteal layer. They will be surrounding the usually in the cancellous area, bone marrow, cavity, marrow spaces are there. All that will be lined by the endosteum. So coming to the classification of bone tissue, we can classify it as according to the nature of its composition, like compact bone and spongy bone, because compact bone will be looking compact, very thick, but the spongy bone will be looking cancellous. And according to the maturity, we can call it as mature bone or the lamellar bone, and the immature bone or the woven bone. And according to ossification, you can classify it into cartilaginous or membranous bone, and membrocartilaginous bones are there. So here you can see a section of a shaft of some long bone, where we can see the compact nature as well as the spongy nature of the bone. Both these bones are made up of lamellar bone. That means the compact bone as well as the spongy bone, that they are made up of sheets of bone tissue. These sheets will be arranged in such a way that the fibers of one sheet will be opposite. Fibers of the same sheet will be parallel to each other, but the adjacent sheets will be arranged opposite to each other. So compact bone as well as spongy bone, they are made up of sheets of bone tissue, which is called bony lamellae, and they are usually in the compact bone, it will be made up of osteons. We'll come to that osteon, what it is. Osteons is otherwise called the Haversian system. So within this sheet, remember the bone tissue, it is mineralized matrix only. In between the sheets, you will get the cells. So what is an osteon? So between each lamella, there is a space called the lacuna where the osteocytes are resting there, and lacunae are connected by canaliculae. Between the concentric lamellae, interstitial lamellae, and circumferential lamellae are all there. So here you can see a compact bone structure under microscope. It is a ground section. You can see the lamellae sheets of bones tissue are arranged as concentric lamellae around the Haversian canal. This sort of arrangement will be called as Haversian system. So there is a Haversian canal. Around that, sheets of lamellae are arranged as concentric rings, and these are called the osteons. This is actually the newly formed osteons or the secondary osteon. They are the sheets of concentric sheets of lamellae, bony lamellae present around the Haversian canal, and around here you can see around 5 to 6 lamellae around one Haversian canal. Similarly, many osteons are there. These osteons are the newly formed one. The old one which are present between the osteons, that is called the interstitial lamellae, and the other one which is present towards the endosteal or the periosteal side, that is called the circumferential lamellae. So they are all sheets of bone or lamellae, bone lamellae, which are placed one after the other, and in between the dark dot which are representing the space for the osteocyte or the lacunae. So within this lacunae only osteocytes are placed, and they will be connected. Lacunae are connected with between each other by canaliculae. This is a longitudinal section. Here also we can see the Haversian canal. Haversian canal on either side you can see the bony lamellae with the lacunae and canaliculae. Two different Haversian system or osteons are connected by transverse canals which are called perforating canals which are called Workman's canal. So this is the nature of bone tissue which is present in the compact bone. When it is coming to the higher magnification, you can see there is a Haversian canal. In that Haversian canal, usually blood vessels and lymphatics as well as nerve fibers will be there. Surrounding that, you can see one sheet of lamella, another sheet of lamella, like that. Many sheets of lamella which are arranged in a concentric manner, ring-shaped lamellae of bones are there. In between the dark spaces, that is the lacunae, and the lacunae, one after the other, you can see they are connected, interconnected by a lot of canaliculae. So this is the way the osteons, a single osteon look under the microscope. You can see this is one osteon, that is the other osteon. Separating that, you can see a small, thin, amorphous line, or which is little bit eosinophilic and stained sections. You can see here that is called a cementing line. Fibers are deficient there in this area. Collagen fibers are deficient in this area. It is fully mineralized matrix only will be present between the osteons, and that is called as cementing line or limiting line. So osteons, they can be classified as primary osteon and secondary osteon. Primary osteons example is that uh, interstitial lamella as well as the circumferential lamella, and the secondary osteons are the newly formed osteons or the Haversian systems. As I told, the cementing line, it is the periphery of one osteon with the other one, and there the collagen fibers are absent, and it is mainly mineral salts only present in that line. It is also called the limiting line. Haversian canal, what it is? It is present in the center of an osteon. It consists of nerves and vessels, and its long axis parallel to the axis of the bone, and they are interconnected by Volkmann's canal, which is connecting the endosteal surface to the periosteal surface, and they run perpendicular to the long axis of the bone between the lamella. So here we can see both Haversian canal and the Volkmann's canal, and they are bringing the blood vessels and nerve fibers to the bony lamellae as well as osteocytes. So through this through this Volkmann's canal and the Haversian canal, only blood vessels and lymphatics as well as nerve fibers are reaching the cells, which are otherwise not able to get the nutrition through by diffusion. As we are seeing in the cartilage, the matrix is allowing the diffusion of substances, but here, since it is mineralized, it cannot be diffused through the lamellae, bony lamellae. So Volkmann's canal and Haversian canals only bringing these blood vessels and nerves to these osteocytes. From there, it will be coming to the canaliculae, to the lacunae, where the osteocytes are resting there. So this is another high magnification view of the osteon, where you can see the dark one is the Haversian canal, and surrounding that various lamellae, bony lamellae are there. Between that bony lamellae, the dark spots are representing the lacunae, and you can see the lacunae are interconnected by canaliculae. So remember, in a living bone, within the lacunae, osteocytes are present, and they have their protoplasmic processes. That protoplasmic processes will be connected to the other similar cells which are present in the deeper or superficial part of the osteon. This is a handwritten diagram where you can see 2 or 3 osteons, a Haversian, in a Haversian canal. It is connected to the another Haversian canal by a Volkmann's canal, and in between the Haversian systems, you can see the interstitial lamellae. Towards the periphery, you can see the outer periosteal circumferential lamellae, and here the inner endosteal circumferential lamellae with the endosteum and periosteum. Why I showed this picture? This will be asked for short note microstructure of the compact bone. You should draw a diagram like this, and all these features should be described in your description. Coming to the cancellous bone, as I told you, that is also made up of sheets of bone or the lamellae, but here it is not forming Haversian system. But if it is a big trabeculae, bony trabeculae, so here the cancellous bonds are made up of bony trabeculae interconnecting each other and anastomose. Such interconnecting trabeculae, if it is very big, then you may get some Haversian system there. Otherwise, usually in the bony trabeculae, Haversian systems are absent. They will be present as bony lamellae, or sheets of bones which are interconnecting and anastomosing. Another type of bone, according to the maturity, is the immature bone or newly formed bone. Usually, the newly formed bone will not be having an appearance of lamellar nature, which will be usually undifferentiated, or just osteoid will be secreted randomly, diffused manner around the cells. And this sort of bones you may get if there is a fracture site, or when the fracture is getting healed, such sites we will get this sort of woven bone. And in the woven bone, non-lamellar in nature, and they are irregularly arranged with collagen fibers, and osteoid will be present around it. So primary bone, which is deposited on the hyaline cartilage, uh, is also an example for woven bone. So in this picture, you can see the difference between the lamellar bone and the woven bone. There is no regular arrangement for the woven bone. It is a diffused matrix in between cells are dispersed. But here in the mature lamellar bone, they are arranged as bony sheets, lamella, and in between lactinic cells. This is again a diagrammatic representation of the mature and immature bone. So bone can be also classified as, according to their ossification nature, as endochondral or intramembranous, as well as membranocartilaginous bone. Coming to the clinical part of the bone tissue, usually there are a lot of problems associated with bone histology. One is osteoporosis, another is rickets or osteomalacia, and this osteoporosis, it is produced, it is a result of abnormal bone resorption. There will be normally a balance between the bone formation and the bone resorption, but when the bone resorption becomes higher than the bone formation, it will be landing like this. You can see in this picture there are the bony trabeculae are all very thin and degenerated. Usually it is present in ladies above 50 years, means after menopause, because of the decline of estrogen hormone. It can happen like this. Another condition which is affecting the bone is scurvy, deficiency in the production of collagen fibers due to the deficiency of vitamin C, that is called scurvy. And there are other problems like uh, osteogenetic imperfecta, which is also a genetic disease. There is a mutation in the gene responsible for the synthesis of the collagen fibers. Due to the inadequate production of the collagen fibers, uh, uh, it, such patients, they will develop a brittle, or their bone becomes brittle, and usually they will be suffering from bone fracture and all. Another disease associated with the bone tissue is abnormal bone formation and remodeling. It is called as Paget's disease. This can happen in both the adult and young individuals. It's also due to the imbalance between the bone formation and bone resorption. There will be abnormal bone growth like this. In this radiograph you can see. These are the various clinical part of the histology of bone tissue. Thank you for attending the today's sessions. If you have any doubt regarding this class, you can clarify with me later in the class. Thank you.